Welcome to Neuronomics Podcast, where we explore the evolving landscape of innovation, disruption, and technology's transformative power in our everyday lives.
Welcome to Neuronomics, the signal cutting through the noise of our AI-infused future. I'm Skyler, founder, builder, dad, economist, and relentless explorer of the strange new world we're all navigating. And I'm fired up to have you here, because Neuronomics isn't just back to talk, it's back to spark. In a world drowning in distraction, this is your journal for the builders, your map for the misfits, your compass for everyone who sees the old systems collapsing and knows it's time to create what comes next. We're living in a new era of leverage where the rules are shifting, the gatekeepers are glitching, and the tools in our hands are more powerful than empires. And here's the truth. This show isn't just about AI. It's not just about economics. It's about us. The human experience in an age where acceleration is the norm and chaos is the background noise. It's about exploring the unknown, challenging the assumptions we were handed, architecting the future we refuse to inherit passively. Every week on Neuronomics, we'll dive deep into the new economy, post-industrial, post-truth, post-legacy, into how AI is reshaping value, redefining work, and rewiring society. Into the minds of builders, innovators, and rebels who aren't waiting for permission. They're already creating what comes next. You'll hear stories of those who are thriving inside the uncertainty, who see opportunity where others see fear. So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a curious student, or simply someone who knows the old answers don't fit the new questions anymore, Neuronomics is here for you. To sharpen your clarity, to fuel your rebellion, and to help navigate and build the future. Because in this world, we don't just survive acceleration, we leverage it. But let me be crystal clear about something. This isn't another tech podcast telling you which shiny objects to chase. It's not another business show promising you quick millions. It's not another venture capitalist soapbox about what's hot this quarter. Neuronomics cuts deeper than that. It's about the architecture of thought that creates resilience in chaos. It's about the mental models that separate those who get crushed by change from those who harness it. It's about the quiet decisions made day after day that compound into a life of extraordinary impact. Because here's what I've learned. In a world screaming for your attention, the ultimate rebellion is focused clarity. In a landscape exhausted by hype, the ultimate power move is authentic truth. And in an economy that wants to reduce you to your productivity, the ultimate disruption is remembering your humanity. That's the Neuronomics difference. Every episode is designed not just to inform you, but to transform how you see, how you think, how you build, how you live. So if you're tired of surface level conversations, if you're hungry for substance over spectacle, if you're ready to join a community of builders who refuse to sit on the sidelines while history writes itself, then you're home. Welcome to Neuronomics. Let's move. We're living through the biggest transformation since Bretton Woods, The moment in 1944 when, after a devastating world war, leaders from across the globe came together to rebuild the financial system from the ground up. It took a world war to force that kind of change. This time, there's no conference table, no signing ceremony, no history book moment. It's happening in real time, in code, in chaos, in quiet decisions made a million times a day by people like you and me. The systems we inherited, schools, banks, governments, media, they weren't built for this velocity. They were designed for a world of paper, not processors. Now they're breaking. We're watching trust dissolve, institutions glitch, and people check out, burn out, or lash out. And here's the hardest truth. There's no roadmap for what comes next. We're walking into uncharted terrain. And if you're waiting for someone to hand you a manual, you're already behind. But if you're still here, if you're tuning in, I know you feel it too. You catch the signals the headlines miss. You ask the deeper questions the algorithms punish. You know deep down that adapting isn't enough anymore. We have to architect what comes next. AI isn't a buzzword. It's a shift in power. It's not about replacing jobs. It's about reshaping value. Redefining what it means to work, to build, to think. Money doesn't just live in banks anymore. It lives in trust, reputation, attention, and code. And your greatest asset isn't your title. It's your clarity. That's what Neuronomics is here to sharpen. This isn't a show for spectators. It's a training ground for strategists, builders, thinkers, and rebels. Because when the systems break, that's when leaders rise. So welcome to the edge, the frontier, the rewire. Welcome to Neuronomics. I started Neuronomics to give voice to this shift, to unpack what it means to live, build, invest, and raise a family at the collision point of technological acceleration and economic chaos. I've sat in classrooms, worked graveyard shifts, traded through market frenzies, failed, burned out, and come back louder, sharper, and wiser. So whether you're hearing this in a quiet room, on a commute, or grinding through the messy middle of building something that doesn't make sense to everyone else, just remember, you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not late. We're just getting started. Think about it. Really think about what's happening right now. 70% of the jobs our kids will have don't exist yet. The average lifespan of a Fortune 500 company has shrunk from 75 years to less than 15. The world's most valuable resource isn't oil anymore. It's data. The fastest growing currency isn't backed by gold. It's backed by consensus. The most powerful force shaping our future isn't a government. It's algorithms. This isn't a hyperbole. This is reality. And it's moving so fast that by the time the textbooks catch up, the landscape will have shifted 3 more times. But here's what gets missed in all the chaos talk. This moment, this breaking point, it's not just a crisis. It's a forge. It's the pressure that creates diamonds. It's the resistance that builds strength. It's the disruption that creates space for new visions. And that's where you come in. Because every time systems break, it's not the ones with the most resources who rebuild. It's the ones with the most clarity. The ones who can see through the noise to what matters. The ones who understand that times of chaos aren't about surviving until normalcy returns. They're about defining the new normal. That's the opportunity hidden in plain sight. While everyone else is distracted by the surface turbulence, the real builders are diving deeper. They're asking what fundamental assumptions are breaking. What new foundations need to be built? What value can I create that wasn't possible before? How do I position myself not just to weather the storm, but to thrive because of it? These aren't academic questions. They're survival questions. They're wealth creation questions. They're legacy defining questions. And the answers, they're not coming from the top. They're not being handed down from ivory towers or corner offices. They're being forged in the trenches by people like you and me, by the builders who refuse to accept that the future is something that happens to us, by the visionaries who understand that the future is something we create, one decision at a time, one system at a time, one disruption at a time. Welcome to Neuronomics. Let's rebuild the future one episode at a time. Let's start with the truth most people hide. I didn't stop Neuronomics because I ran out of ideas. I stopped because I was drowning in noise. Not the world's noise, my own. I was building, pushing, shipping, and somewhere between the startups, the side hustles, the automations, the deadlines, I lost my own signal. You know that feeling when you're doing all the right things, but somehow it starts to feel wrong? When your calendar's full, but your soul feels empty? That was me. It wasn't that I didn't care. It's that I cared so much about getting it right, about staying ahead of AI and delivering value and building the brand, that somewhere along the way I forgot why I started building it all. I became a machine inside my own systems, optimizing everything except my own clarity. And that's the thing nobody tells you about leverage. If you don't know what you're scaling, you might just end up scaling your own confusion. I was automating tasks, shipping content, stacking systems, but my intuition, my vision, my fire, muted. And so for the first time in a long time, I chose to do something radical. I stopped. I paused the podcast, paused the projects, paused the need to be in motion all the time. Because sometimes the most strategic move isn't building harder, it's listening deeper. When you pause, you see the truth. You see which systems are compounding quietly. You see which ones are burning fuel without direction. And you see yourself again without the noise. And here's what I saw. I didn't start Neuronomics to play the content game. I started it because I believed that in a world flooded with noise, clear thinking is a rebellion. Clear building is an act of war against entropy. I needed to come back to that. To the why. Not the metrics, not the followers, not the dopamine drip of engagement, but the mission. Cut through the noise. Sharpen the signal. Build smarter. Live clearer. And that's what Neuronomics was always supposed to be. And now, it's back. Clearer, stronger, hungrier. For you, for me. For the builders who are still fighting to stay human while building the future. Because we don't need new tools. We need new clarity. And that's what this season is about. So if you've ever paused something you loved, not because it was broken, but because it mattered too much to do halfway, welcome back. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Let me share something I've probably never talked about publicly. During that pause, I found myself sitting at home, 2 a.m., screen glowing, coffee cold, staring at a wall of browser tabs, a dozen half-finished projects, 3 different business models, 5 different content strategies, and I had the moment of brutal honesty with myself. I've become what I swore to fight against: noise. I was churning out content automation systems, but to what end? Metrics were growing, the pipeline healthy, but something essential was missing. Soul, direction, purpose beyond optimization. I'd fallen into the trap of mistaking motion for meaning, of confusing output with impact. And in that moment, I made a decision that changed everything. I would no longer measure success by how much I could produce, but by how clear I could become. Not by how many people I could reach, but how deeply I could connect. Not by how quickly I could move, but how intentionally I could build. And that's when the real transformation began. I started asking deeper questions. What am I uniquely positioned to build? What signal am I desperately seeking that the world isn't providing? What future am I trying to create, not just predict? And slowly the fog lifted, the noise receded, and the true vision of what neuronomics could be emerged with crystal clarity. A lighthouse in the storm of acceleration. A playbook for those building the future while staying deeply human. A community of clear thinkers in a world addicted to reaction. You see, the pause wasn't about quitting. It was about recalibrating. It was about finding my true north again. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about our era. We've been sold the myth that speed is everything, that volume equals value, that more is always better. And it's destroying us. It's burning out our best minds. It's fragmenting our deepest work. It's reducing our most brilliant creators to content machines instead of vision carriers. And what if the real competitive advantage isn't speed? What if it's depth? What if the true edge isn't how much you can produce, but how clearly you can think? What if the future belongs not to the loudest voices, but to the clearest ones? That's the bet I'm making here with the relaunch of Neuronomics. That's the signal I'm betting you're searching for too. And that's what the season is about. So, let's keep moving. Because if you blinked in 2023, you missed it. That's how fast the ground shifted beneath us. 1 minute we were playing with GPT-3, writing poems, automating tweets, building memes. The next, GPT-4 was diagnosing medical conditions and drafting legal arguments, building apps from text prompts, and passing the bar exam faster than anyone expected. And that's just what made the headlines. Behind the scenes, model performance wasn't just improving, it was exploding. Open source caught up faster than anyone predicted. Multi-model interfaces took flight. Vector databases became the new oil. And all at once, the realization hit. The genie isn't just out of the bottle. It's building better bottles. And yet most of the world, they still think AI is just a toy. Or worse, a threat to fear, not a tool to wield. But here's the story. AI isn't just intelligence at scale. It's leverage at scale. It's not an upgrade. It's rewiring of business, media, education, creativity, relationships, everything it touches. And the ones who will thrive, they're not the loudest. They're the clearest. They know what not to build. They know when to step in and when to step away. They don't just automate to save time. they delegate to machines out of strategy, not laziness. They aren't trying to replace themselves with AI. They're using AI to multiply themselves. While the institutions debated ethics and regulators scrambled to catch up, the real builders were already training agents, crafting personal co-pilots, designing self-running systems, and engineering specialized models to fit their exact vision. And they didn't wait for permission. They built. This isn't just a wave of new tools. It's a whole new philosophy. The philosophy of the leveraged mind. Use AI to serve your vision. Automate everything that isn't your soul's work. Think in systems, not tasks. Use your humanity as the filter and your clarity as the weapon. That's the mindset Neuronomics was built for. Because in this era, speed is currency. Clarity is capital. Adaptability is your edge. And here's the thing. You don't have to know everything about AI. You don't have to become a prompt engineering wizard overnight. But you do have to be honest. Honest about how it's reshaping everything we touch. How it's accelerating the evolution of work, wealth, and worth itself. This isn't about keeping up. It's about rewriting the game. It's about deciding right now whether you want to be a user, a creator, or a shaper of the future. This acceleration, it's not slowing down, and neither are we. Let me give you a concrete example of what this acceleration looks like on the ground. A friend of mine runs a mid-sized marketing agency. Last year, his team of 12 writers could produce about 100 pieces of content per month. Quality work, human creativity, professional standards. Today, that same team, using AI as a co-pilot, produces over 400 pieces. Not by working harder, not by cutting corners, but by completely reimagining their creative workflow. The AI doesn't replace the writers, it amplifies them. It handles the first drafts, the research gathering, the formatting, the optimization, while the humans focus on what humans do best. Strategic thinking, emotional resonance, cultural nuance, unexpected connections. The work is better, the clients are happier, the team is less burnt out, and the business, it's growing at 3 times the industry average. That's not incremental change. That's a phase shift. And it's happening in every industry at every scale. Solo entrepreneurs building 7-figure businesses with AI-powered systems handling operations that used to require teams of 10 plus. Developers creating in weeks what used to take months. Researchers exploring data sets and generating insights at scales previously unimaginable. Artists collaborating with machine intelligence to create new forms of expression that neither could achieve alone. This isn't science fiction. This isn't coming soon. This is happening now. And the gap between those who understand how to harness this acceleration and those who don't. It's not just growing, it's compounding. Day by day, decision by decision, system by system. The builders who get this aren't worried about AI taking their jobs. They're worried about competitors who use AI taking their market. They're not debating whether to adopt. They're experimenting relentlessly to find the right integration points. They're asking, how do I use AI to amplify my strengths? How do I build systems that learn rather than systems that just execute? How do I maintain human values at the core while leveraging inhuman scale? These aren't abstract questions. They're the new fundamentals of business strategy, of wealth creation, of staying relevant in a world where the definition of skilled labor is being rewritten monthly. In every episode, we're going to push the edges of what's possible, break down the latest developments, and hand you the tools, strategies, and stories you need to thrive. So buckle up, because we're just getting started. While AI was accelerating, something else was happening. Quietly, relentlessly, everywhere. The economy started breaking its old bones. You could feel it. Prices up, trust down, systems fraying at the edges. And not just in some far-off market. Right here, in everyday life. You don't need a PhD to see it. You just have to buy groceries, pay rent, apply for a mortgage, or start a business. Everything feels heavier, slower. Like dragging a wagon uphill through thick mud. That's because we're living through a massive dislocation, where the old economic engines, schools, banks, governments, media, aren't built for the velocity, the uncertainty, or the tools of this new era. They were designed for a world of linear change, not exponential chaos. And now, they're glitching. Housing feels rigged. Healthcare feels broken. Education feels outdated. Money itself feels like it's slipping through the fingers faster and faster than ever. This isn't business as usual. This is a paradigm fracture. And here's the hard truth no one wants to say out loud. The cavalry isn't coming. No government agency, no institution, no expert panel is going to save you from the shift. The game board is rearranging itself, and you have two choices. You either adapt intentionally, or you get pushed around by forces bigger than you. Because when economic systems stretch this thin, opportunity gaps widen fast. Those who understand how value moves, how attention flows, how trust compounds, how automation scales, they're not just surviving this shift, they're riding it. Because in dislocation, power doesn't disappear. It moves. It moves to those who understand networks, not just jobs. Those who can build leverage, not just hustle harder. Those who know how to create value outside the old rules. It moves to those who stop asking, how do I keep up? And start asking, how do I design systems that win while others are still playing catch up? This is why neuronomics matters, because you can't play defense anymore. You need offense. Building trust while institutions lose it. Creating assets while others cling to liabilities. And training your mind while others outsource their thinking. Let me make this concrete with numbers that tell the real story. The average American now needs to work 67 hours at median wage to afford 1 month's rent. In 1970, it was 42 hours. College tuition has increased 1,200% since 1980. Wages? Just 236%. The wealth gap isn't just growing, it's accelerating. The top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. And perhaps most telling, for the first time in American history, most parents believe their children will be worse off financially than they were. This isn't just another recession or market correction. This is system failure. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think the goal is to go back to how things were, to fix the broken systems, to return to normal. That's like trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. The old economic frameworks aren't just damaged. They're obsolete. They were built for a world that no longer exists. A world before automation could replace entire job categories overnight. A world before information could travel at light speed. A world before a talent could work from anywhere for anyone. A world before AI could multiply human productivity by orders of magnitude. We're not going back. We're going forward. Into territory few have mapped. And in this territory, the rules are different. The most valuable skills aren't the most specialized. They're the most adaptable. The most reliable investment isn't in things. It's in systems that learn. The most important network isn't who you know. It's who knows what you can do. This is why so many people feel stuck. They're playing by rulebooks that are being rewritten in real time. They're measuring success by metrics that are rapidly losing relevance. They're building career industries that might not even exist in a decade. But for those who see clearly, for those who understand that dislocation isn't just destruction, but creation, this moment, this dislocation, it's not the end. It's the opening. It's the wide space where the next builders, creators, and leaders will define the next era. Not with permission, not by waiting, but by building smarter, faster, louder, and deeper from a foundation of clarity, conviction, and courage. Because while the old guard is busy patching leaks, we're laying new foundations. Neuronomics is about building those foundations, brick by brick, decision by decision, system by system. This isn't about surviving the storm. It's about becoming the architect of what comes after it. And if you're still listening to this, you already know. You're not here to play the old game. You're here to build the new one. Standing in the middle of all that chaos, the AI acceleration, the economic dislocation, the crumbling of old systems, I realized something. The most important upgrades aren't in tools. They're in mindset. I used to think clarity came from consumption. More books, more podcasts, more newsletters, more courses. But clarity doesn't come from stacking more information. It comes from subtraction. It comes from silence, from stillness, from pausing long enough to actually hear your own signal through all the noise. That's what stepping away from neuronomics taught me. It wasn't just about taking a break. It was about recalibrating the way I operate. I had to stop just doing. I had to start deeply noticing how much of my energy was spent reacting instead of intentionally building. Noticing how often I chased external validation instead of internal vision. Noticing how building without boundaries wasn't a flex. It was a liability. And once you start noticing, you can't unsee it. You realize most of the systems that claim to help you scale, whether it's a job, a business, or side hustle, are quietly draining your time, your focus, your soul. Because leverage without clarity is a trap. You end up automating things that don't matter. You end up scaling things that don't fulfill you. You end up succeeding at things you never even wanted. That was my wake-up call. The real game isn't speed. It's direction. Fast in the wrong direction is still wrong. And slow, if it's aligned, can change your entire life. Let me share something I've never told anyone. During my pause, I was building, still creating systems, still tinkering with AI, still exploring the edges. But I was doing it privately, not for followers, not for metrics, not for the algorithm, but for clarity. I built personal systems that helped me process information without drowning in it, extract signal from the noise of the market, and protect my energy so I could pour it into what actually mattered. And you know what? My business grew. My relationships deepened. My vision clarified. Not because I was hustling harder, but because I was building smarter. Because I finally understood the quality of your output reflects the quality of your filters. If your filters are weak, if you let every trend, every opinion, every algorithm dictate your attention, your building will be scattered, your systems leaky, your impact will be diluted. But if your filters are strong, if you know exactly what deserves your focus and what doesn't, you become unstoppable. Not because you do more, but because everything you do compounds. This is the hidden secret that most productivity gurus won't tell you. The real power isn't in doing more things. It's in doing the right things with uncompromising focus. I've watched brilliant minds burn out trying to keep up with the pace of change. I've seen visionary builders abandon their greatest ideas because they couldn't filter through the noise. I've experienced firsthand how the constant pull of more content, more features, more metrics can slowly erode your connection to your original vision. And I realized the greatest leverage isn't external, it's internal. It's your ability to stay clear when everyone else is confused, to stay focused when everyone else is distracted, to stay aligned with your vision when everyone else is chasing trends. So what did I really learn? I learned that building smart means saying no more often than you say yes, and protecting your energy like it's your most valuable currency, because it is. Designing systems that serve your life, not just your ego. Trusting that slowing down doesn't mean you're falling behind. It means you're setting up your next move properly. I learned that if you don't set your own terms, the world will set them for you. And I learned that in a world obsessed with being louder, faster, shinier, depth wins. The people who slow down enough to think clearly, to build intentionally, to filter ruthlessly. They aren't just surviving this era, they're designing it. Here's an exercise that changed everything for me. I took a full week to audit every single system in my life and business. Every tool, every process, every relationship. And I asked one brutal question. Is this amplifying my signal, or is it adding to the noise? The answers were uncomfortable. Projects I've invested months in, noise. Relationships I've maintained for years, noise. Tools I champion publicly, noise. It wasn't that these things were bad. It's that they weren't aligned with my core mission. They weren't serving my highest purpose. They were fragments of other people's visions that I had adopted as my own. And when I finally had the courage to cut them loose, that's when the real building began. That's when Neuronomics transformed from a podcast into a movement. Because I stopped trying to be everything to everyone. I stopped diluting the message to make it more palatable. I stopped measuring success by metrics that didn't matter to my core mission. And I started building with absolute clarity. And that's why Neuronomics came back. It couldn't just be more of the same. It had to be sharper, more focused, more real. It had to be a space for builders, not just dreamers. Strategists, not just spectators. Humans, not just operators. Because the future isn't going to be written by the ones who post the most or automate the fastest. It's going to be written by the ones who think the clearest and build the bravest. And if you're still here, listening, nodding, feeling that fire build up inside you, good. That's the signal we're following. So why now? Why bring Neuronomics back into the chaos of today? Because the timing matters. Because if you're paying attention, You can feel it. The ground is shifting, the rules are bending, the windows of opportunity are opening and closing faster than ever. And here's the thing. Waiting is no longer a strategy. You can't sit on the sidelines hoping to figure it out later. Because by the time later arrives, the map will be rewritten. The ones who move now, the ones who build now, the ones who learn how to think, act, and adapt at velocity, they're the ones who are going to shape what comes next. Not inherit it. Shape it. Let me tell you what I mean with a concrete example. 2 years ago, I met two developers with nearly identical skills. Both brilliant. Both hardworking. Both with the same opportunities in front of them. One said, "I'll wait until things settle down before I figure out how AI fits into my workflow." The other said, "I had no idea where this is going, but I'm going to start building with it today." Fast forward, the first developer, still employed, still skilled, still waiting for clarity. The second, built a suite of AI-powered tools that now generate 7 figures in revenue. Automated systems that run while he sleeps. A network of partners who seek him out for his unique perspective. And most importantly, a first principles understanding of how these technologies actually work, not just how they're marketed. The difference wasn't talent. It was opportunity. It wasn't even hard work. It was timing. One waited for certainty. The other created certainty by building before the path was clear. This pattern is repeating everywhere. In finance, where those who understood crypto fundamentals early built generational wealth while the skeptics waited for regulation. In content creation, those who mastered AI collaboration tools now produce 10 times the amount of output with deeper quality, while others still debate whether to use them. In education, where those who built their own learning systems flourish, while traditional students drown in debt waiting for institutions to catch up. The old cycles of get good grades, get a good job, retire safe, they're already breaking apart. The old playbooks of start at the bottom, work your way up, they're already outdated. We're entering an era where skills compound faster than degrees. Trust travels faster than institutions. Personal clarity beats external validation every time. But here's the critical insight. Building now doesn't mean building recklessly. It means building intelligently, with intention, with strategy, with a clear-eyed view of where leverage actually exists. Because the future isn't just for the fast. It's for the focused. The ones who understand that in chaos, precision matters more than ever. This is why so many people who appear busy right now are actually falling behind. They're splitting their attention across dozens of projects. They're chasing every trend. They're consuming endless content about AI without ever building a single system that leverages it. They're mistaking motion for progress. But true builders, they're laser focused. They're asking sharper questions. What unique advantage do I have that AI can amplify? What problem can I solve that I couldn't solve before? And where can I build something small but significant that creates compounding returns? Now, they're not just asking these questions. They're acting on the answers, even when the actions are small, even when the results aren't immediate, because they understand what most miss. In exponential environments, consistency beats intensity. The small, focused action taken daily beats the grand gesture taken once. The question isn't, how do I change everything overnight? It's how can I build today that will be creating value a year from now? This is how empires are built in the acceleration. Not with giant leaps, but with intelligent steps, taken with unwavering consistency, guided by uncommon clarity. And if you wait for someone to tell you what to do, you'll be living by someone else's blueprint. You'll be reacting, not designing. And the future belongs to designers, not passengers, not cynics, builders. That's why Neuronomics had to come back down, because this isn't just another hype cycle. This is epoch change. This is Bretton Woods without the meeting rooms, industrial revolution without the factories, cultural renaissance without the gatekeepers. It's happening live, messy, unfiltered, raw. Let me share what I'm seeing on the front lines. Small teams building AI-powered products in weeks that would have taken years before. Solo creators with audiences of thousands generating income that rivals corporate executives. New forms of coordination, collaboration, and value creation that simply didn't exist 2 years ago. Knowledge workers transforming from cogs in the machine to architects of the system. The barriers aren't just lowering, they're dissolving. The gap between idea and execution has never been smaller. The distance between vision and reality has never been shorter. But with this acceleration comes a paradox. As the technical barriers fall, the mental barriers become more critical. Your ability to filter signal from noise matters more than ever. Your clarity of purpose becomes your greatest competitive edge. Your capacity for deep work becomes your true superpower. Because when everyone has access to the same tools, the difference isn't in what you can build, but in what you choose to build and why. This is the fork in the road we're all facing. Will you use these tools to chase trends or to manifest vision? Will you build systems that react or systems that direct? Will you amplify the noise or strengthen the signal? The choice isn't just philosophical, it's existential. Because the systems we build today, the habits we form, the boundaries we set, the values we encode, they're not just shaping our present, they're writing our future. And if you're here, if you're still listening, you are not a spectator. You're part of the rebuild. You're part of the generation that doesn't just talk about the future, you forge it. Not because it's easy, not because somebody handed you a manual, but because you refused to sit back while the systems crumbled. Because you saw the chaos for what it really is. Fertile ground for new systems, new ideas, new ways of thinking, working, building, thinking. And you're ready to get your hands dirty, to build things that matter, to create leverage that's real, to live with clarity, integrity, and courage. Even when it's inconvenient. Well, especially when it's inconvenient. Because that's what leadership actually looks like now. Not a title, not a million followers, not a flashy launch. Leadership is about choosing to think clearly when the world gets loud. Choosing to build wisely when the world gets reckless. Choosing to move boldly when everyone else hesitates. That's what Neuronomics is here for. Not just to talk about trends, but to help you build your edge inside them. Because the future won't be handed to you. It will be built by you. Starting now. Let's go. Here's what I want you to understand about this moment. This isn't just another podcast. This isn't just another episode. This is a declaration. A line drawn in the sand between those who watch history unfold and those who write it. Between those who complain about broken systems and those who build new ones. Between those who fear acceleration and those who harness it. Who are you going to be? The critic on the sidelines or the builder in the arena? The one who waits for permission or the one who creates without asking? The one who follows old maps or the one who charts new territories? Make no mistake, this is the great filter of our era. The decisions you make right now about how you think, how you build, how you move through chaos, they're not just shaping your career, they're defining your legacy. You feel it, don't you? The acceleration, the breaking, the becoming. We weren't born for safety nets. We weren't wired to sit quietly while the blueprints burned. We are the edge walkers, the system rewriters, the builders who dare to start before certainty ever arrives. And that's not just poetry. That's strategy. In a world where the only constant is change, the greatest competitive advantage is your ability to move with intention, to think with clarity, to build with courage, while others are still waiting for the dust to settle. They'll be waiting forever because the dust isn't settling. The ground is still shifting, the rules are still breaking, and that's not a crisis. That's an invitation. An invitation to those brave enough to see it. To stop playing by the rules you inherited and start writing rules you believe in. To stop fitting into systems designed for another era and start building systems designed for what comes next. To stop consuming the future and start creating it. Neuronomics is your weapon, your toolkit, your edge in the age of rewiring. Every episode, every system, every framework we build together, it's not just content. It's ammunition for the greatest building era in human history. This isn't the end of a podcast episode. It's the beginning of a movement. One voice, one build, one clear signal at a time. A community of builders who refuse to be passive observers in the most transformative moment in economic history. The network of minds committed to creating systems that serve humanity, not just algorithms. A tribe of visionaries who understand that the greatest innovations don't just solve problems. They elevate what's possible. We're the architects of what's coming next. Not someday, now. The question isn't whether the future will be built. It's whether you'll be one of the builders. Whether you'll have the courage to move before you're ready. The discipline to think before you react. The vision to see beyond what others tell you is possible. This is your invitation to step into that vision. To join a community that doesn't just talk about change, but creates it. To access the systems, frameworks, and insights that separate those who leverage the acceleration from those crushed by it. The future belongs to the builders, and Neuronomics is where the builders gather. This is Neuronomics, and this is just the beginning. We'll see you next episode. Music credits episode 9, The System's Breaking, Let's Build Something Smarter. All music licensed via Coma Media, Pixabay, under free use audio license for creators. In innovation, Coma Media. Background technology, Coma Media. Calming ambient technology, Coma Media. Deep technology, Coma Media. Freedom, Coma Media. Future innovation, Coma Media. Futuristic technology, Coma Media. Innovation technology, Coma Media. Inspiring technology, Coma Media. Neuronomics intro, deep technology, Coma Media. Special thanks to Coma Media for providing cinematic, ambient, and futuristic soundscapes that amplify the message of episode 9.